morning. Good morning. Going to start over here on Instagram. We're going live on a few different places today. So pop in and say hello. Let me know where you are checking in from. Drop your comments. I'll be trying to keep up with them. And I'm real excited to talk to you today about what we have going on for our topic today. So if you know the topic, let me know if you're excited. It's about, is any of it real? Is any of this real? Are any of the things that we think in our brain, are they even real? And why we should not believe everything our thoughts tell us. Such a powerful concept. We talk about this in a lot of different ways. This is probably not the first time you've ever heard this. However, sometimes it can be very contradicting to other aspects. So buckle up. Life with me is a paradox, and that is what we are going to get into today, the paradoxes of life, and also understanding how we need to question everything. So I'm real excited on this topic. I'm excited to go into it with you. So please, as we go through, just drop your comments along the way, and I will try to get to them. And if I don't get to them live on the call, then I will just respond back. So if you're watching a replay, after the fact, just comment replay. Let me know what you're excited about to learn. Let me know what you think questioning your thoughts is, and if you should believe everything is real. It's such a powerful concept when we fully embrace it and embody it. And I'm just so excited to share it. So first live inside today. I've been doing them outside, but it's a little bit chilly for that. So again, just when you get here, say hello. I'm excited to talk to you all today. So let's dive in. So when I talk about these concepts of why we shouldn't believe all of our thoughts, it's because all of our thoughts, they're so fleeting. They're not always rooted in truth. So they're rooted in our subconscious beliefs. And so we're going to go through a lot of these different things. And some of these things, I just want to remind you that you may be triggered. You may not like what I'm saying, and you may not even agree with it. And that's okay. I had a client recently tell me, Kayla, sometimes when you're talking, I think, God, Kayla's crazy. Like, Kayla's crazy. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything just makes sense. Like right when you get to the point where everything comes together, it all makes sense. And so it's such a beautiful thing that you can listen to somebody even when you're not fully 100% on board with everything they're saying. It's not necessary to completely believe everything or anything. Let me just say that, because you don't need to believe what I'm saying. You need to understand if it's true for you. And so sometimes things will resonate and sometimes they will not. And that is all okay. This chair's in my way. It does not have to be 100% true to you. And I never try to get anyone to believe anything different. I'm only here to share a perspective, to open you up to see and hear and experience this world a little bit differently. So let's talk about it. So when we have these thoughts that come into our mind, we think we are our thoughts. So we think that we are happy or sad or mad or angry or all these different aspects. And yes, those are also emotions that we feel somatically in our body, but the emotion happens. So the feeling, the sensation happens. And then what do? We label it, right? So I feel this pit in my stomach, and now I am scared or nervous. So now I have given it a label. And then we believe that label. And then what happens so much, now we believe we're a nervous person, right? Now we believe that we are an anxious person. And so now we've created these deep-seated stories about ourselves that we cannot know to be 100% true. They are just stories. They are just thoughts that we associated with a somatic experience in our body that we are holding on to so deeply. And this is where people get really offended and triggered, is when I talk about something like anxiety, and how I talk about how anxiety is something that we form in our brain. So this does not mean that the experience isn't there, that the experience of having that pit in your stomach comes up. What happens is we create our own suffering around the pit in our stomach, because now we feed it, and now we give it more, and now we've given it a story, and now we've given it a title, and now it has a front seat ride in our vehicle. And then before we know it, it's not just in the front seat with us, it's in the driver's seat, and we've moved over to the front seat or the back seat, and it's taking hold. because we've given it that power. We've given it that level of expression that now I have to identify as this anxious person, and anxiety runs my life. And these are the stories that we've created. And are they true? Is it absolutely true? And so what happens is we'll just stay with this storyline of this anxiety, this anxiousness that sometimes we feel. And I hear it so often, I'm an anxious person, right? And so it has this hold on us, and now it becomes what feels like truth. I can't go to the store without being anxious. I can't do this. I can't do any of these things, or I will feel a certain way. And now we've just manifested this into our reality. Now it just becomes our truth. And I really challenge you to ask yourself, is that true? Am I just an anxious person? Or is there a feeling of resistance or anxiety present in the moment? Because there's a big difference between that. Is it present in the moment, or is it 100% truth about who I am? And am I labeling it, and then am I doubling down on this expression of it? And now I am just an anxious person. Those things they make up our life. When if you really think about it, these thoughts, the more we form our thoughts and the more we attach to our thoughts, the deeper rooted they become in our life. And the more disruption they come. And I can promise you, the more you're holding on to a thought, the more you're attached to your thoughts, the more suffering you have. The more you identify with your thoughts, the more suffering you have. Instead of just experiencing the thoughts for what they are, as just literally fleeting things that just come in and out of our brain. And this is not just the more negative experiences, this is the positive experiences as well. Because you can have a very positive thought, and it just flits right through. And that's okay. You can have a more what we perceive as a negative thought, and it just flits right through. We don't have to attach it. So my favorite way to envision this and think about this is as if you were looking at like a river in front of you, a bubbling creek, a river, whatever you want to. It's very calm. It's very beautiful. And the leaves are falling from the trees, and they're falling into the river. And so we're looking at this river, and it's just going along, and the leaves are floating along with it. And we see that, oh, that's the thought that I'm not worthy. Oh, that's the thought that I'm not anxious. Oh, that's the thought that I'll be happy whenever my business takes off. Oh, that's the thought that nobody really cares what I have to say. And you're just looking at it from this observer perspective, and it's just floating down the river with no attachment from you. You're not attached to those thoughts. You're not, oh, nobody, I knew it. I'm going to pick that leaf up, and I'm going to hold it tight and near and dear. And it's now going to become my identity, that absolutely nobody wants to hear anything I have to say. That doesn't serve us. It doesn't create a feeling of openness and expansiveness and peace here right now. What it does, it actually pulls us further away when we pick those leaves up and we hold them as our own, and then we hold them as our identity, and then we feel like we are those things. But you're not any of those things. You're not your thoughts. So there's a big saying out there that says you are your thoughts. So think what you want to be. And I challenge that every single time. You're not your thoughts, period. You're not your happy thoughts, and you're not your negative thoughts. You're not your thoughts. Thoughts are thoughts, right? Thoughts can be present, and then we can see them in our manifested reality around us, and then we can have them as confirmation, but we are not those thoughts. And so when you start to separate from those thoughts and the attachment to those thoughts, you actually have space within you to be free and to experience what's really happening right now. So if you're not questioning what's coming up in your brain, then you are just very unconsciously along for the ride. You are in the passenger seat, or you're in the back seat. Maybe you're in the trunk. I don't know. But you're not actively making forward progression. Something else is. The belief that you've created for this thought is now what's running the show. So these thoughts are formed, and the beliefs behind them, like we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. If you haven't watched those lives, go back and watch them. Those thoughts are formed typically when we're younger, when we've had something happen to us, and then we create this story, and we can't discern between fact and fiction. And the thing is that, I asked that question, is any of this real? Is any of it real? Can you say for certain that anything is fact or fiction? Or is it just your belief that it's true? Right? Your experience shows that this is common, that this happens, that this is the progression. But is any of it true? Can you truly know that? And almost always that answer is going to be no. No, I cannot know that this is absolute truth because it's based off of experience. It's based off of what somebody else has told us. So you have to absolutely question everything. And you have to be able to be willing to let go of those thoughts, those ideas, the attachment to the thoughts and your labels that you give to yourself. So a lot of people struggle. And let me know if that's you. If you struggle with letting go of something like I have this, or I am this, or this causes that. And I will say there's lots of different things that help us identify and have a different experience here. It helps us understand our experience a little bit deeper. But there's a huge difference between like understanding that this is a little bit of how our body operates and then completely attaching to it. Like I am this and I can't do anything else because of that. And so it's this really big separation in your brain to be able to discern between that fact and that fiction, and understanding that all of it's just made up in your brain. All of this around us is just a projection of what happens in our mind. And so this can feel really out there. It can feel really like, I don't quite understand it. So I would love to hear from you guys. Are you understanding what what I'm talking about? Does this make sense to you? Or does it feel a little complex and out of reach? Because there's a lot of different aspects that would go into this. And one of the biggest things is identifying and realizing that what has got us to this point, what has got us to see our reality the way it is based off of past conditioning. It's based off of our past experiences. And it's based off of what our mind looked around and said, this is true for me. This is what is true. This is how I absorb this information. And that's what's true. And we have to be willing to detach from that. And so I would love to know where you guys are at with this. And I want to give you a couple of tools. I want to encourage you to do a meditation. We're just going to keep it at this, but I want to be able to help you through this because I want you to be able to understand where you are having trouble and where you are on board with this and the detachment from the thoughts in general, and how we don't have to believe everything about ourselves, and also not giving our thoughts the power, because once you stop giving your thoughts the power, then you have room, like I said, to be expansive. Then you have room to allow the things in. You're the observer of your thoughts, and they can just flow right through you without you attaching to them. So I want you to go back and think about that river analogy that I gave, and I want you to create a meditation about that. I want you to sit there, and I want you to get in a quiet space. And I just want you to create this beautiful visual in your mind's eye, about a creek, a river, just a beautiful space where the leaves are falling. And as the leaves are falling, once you identify the thoughts, because that's going to be what's going to be happening when you sit down in this silent space, your brain is going to tell you all these things. And I want you just to identify the thoughts that flow through. And I want you to see them without attaching to them. So, oh, I'm unloved, or oh, I'm not capable, or even, oh my gosh, everyone loves me. It's not always the negative thoughts, but they're not you. I'm so kind. I'm so generous. That's just a thought. It's just a fleeting thought. We're not attached. We're not attaching to it. One of my favorite things to say that can be so mind-blowing is, I am absolutely nothing, so I can be everything. So when I am nothing, when I don't consider myself to be anything, kind, mean, happy, sad, mom, wife, nothing, when I don't actually attach to those labels, yes, you'll hear me use them because there's a language and we have to be able to express to other people so they understand. But when you're truly not attached to them, when your whole identity is not formed around them, it just flows right through. And that's when you can be everything, because you're not stuck in one box of being something. So I really encourage you to bring that into your practice as well. And if you don't fully grasp that or you don't understand it right now, that's okay. Um, that's okay. Just take what feels right for you and think about what I've just shared with you today and think about how it fits. So find some time, 5-10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long practice, long enough to get your brain going though, long enough for your thoughts to really start to flow through of, oh, I have to do the dishes, or, oh, I have to do that, or, oh, I have to do that. And say, oh, that's an interesting thought. Oh, that's a beautiful leaf. Right? Oh, that's a beautiful this. Thank you for showing me that. And then as these thoughts come up, what I want you to do, if you haven't watched the videos, go back and look through, and I'll share it here again, but watch those videos on what you do with those thoughts, which are the triggers. So the thought creates the trigger. So the situation creates the trigger. And then I'm going to walk you through those very quickly. So then after you have that moment where you're not attaching to the thoughts, now we can get deeper to understanding. Because if you're not understanding, if you're not doing inquiry, if you're not asking yourself questions and you're not living, you're not experiencing, like I said, you're just flowing through life, or you're just sitting in the passenger seat of life. And so once that comes up, you say, what's the trigger? What triggered me? What was the thought that triggered me? What's the emotion that comes up within my body? That's step 2. Why? So now we question that. So why do I feel this way whenever this happens, or whenever this person says something to me, or in this situation? Now we question that. And then we start to go deeper into step 4. What is the root of this? Where did this come from? Right? And if you remember, we have root, deeper root, and deepest root. So we go through those aspects and we get down to it. And with that, we can't always know when we've reached that deeper root, but we'll know when it feels true. And as we start to be more aware, the things in front of us start to dissolve. So we go through those steps of step 4, then we get to step 5. And this is a real big aspect of it, is what do we gain from keeping it? What's our payoff that we've always gotten by staying stuck in these triggers, by believing these thoughts, by attaching to these thoughts, by forming this label about ourselves, by not being willing to step out of this label, by really identifying with it? What are those steps that we have? And what do we gain from it? You're always gaining something. And then you get to step 6, and now you have a choice. Now you have a choice to keep doing those same things with all the awareness that you have. You can still choose to be reactive. You can still choose to believe those thoughts. That's your choice now because you're aware of it. Or you can start to choose a little bit differently, and then choose a little bit differently, and choose to separate and detach from the thought so it starts to dissolve. And that's the magic behind it. It will start to dissolve in front of you. And so it's less about all of the action required and more about just the process, just the natural process of it dissolving when you stop attaching to it. And that's the beautiful piece. So it doesn't mean that it's not going to be there. So your homework, if you will, is to allow the thoughts to come, but not attach to them. See them for what they are, as just simple thoughts. That's all they are. And if you want to go investigate a little bit more, go investigate a little bit more. Ask yourself all the time. This is a practice that I do all the time. It's a practice I challenge my clients to do, is always question yourself, always question your thoughts, always question your reactions. Use your trigger to your reaction to understand everything. And the more you do, the more it dissolves, the less attached you become to your thoughts, because you're realizing that those were made up stories that you created from an event that happened to you. And we have that control to separate from it. We have that ability to not make it our identity. We have that within us, that innate capacity to be free and to experience life without the suffering. So I would absolutely love to know, either way, if any of this resonated with you or if it didn't, if some of this was easy to understand, and if you feel like you're really going to be able to integrate it, or if you feel like it's going to be really difficult to integrate it. And if you feel like it's going to be difficult, please let me know what you find difficult, and I'll send you some resources, some tips and things for you specifically to be able to integrate it into your life. And as always, thank you so much for being here. I love you all so much. We'll talk next week.